The New California Republic is a massive, state-spanning, post-apocalyptic nation formed in the wastelands of the American Southwest. The faction began as a humble settlement just north of the ruins of the Great Boneyard. It's in this bud of life that the New California Republic, as we know it, takes its first steps. The settlement of Shady Sands was founded by a group of vault dwellers from the nearby Vault 15, using a GECK, also known as the Garden of Eden Creation Kit. This allowed Shady Sands to generate and utilize vital resources needed to survive in the inhospitable wasteland. Although it wasn't just this boost in water and agriculture that led the settlement to success, they benefited from another extremely valuable resource: philosophy. In the early days, the settlement of Shady Sands followed the Gospel of Dharma, a religious figure from Vault 15 who assisted in settling the town. Much like the religion that his name is derived from, Dharma preached the values of honesty, generosity, and patience, all of which are ideals that are sewn into the fundamental fabric of Shady Sands and exemplified through its leader, Aradesh. Aradesh is a direct descendant of the vault dwellers that had founded the town, and as a younger man had lived in the vault himself. During the events that followed their settlement, he stood out amongst his peers for his leadership, and sometime between the years of 2142 and 2161 had ascended to the leader of the community. It was with Aradesh that the seed which would grow into the New California Republic was planted. By the year 2161, Shady Sands was riddled with headaches, from increasingly aggressive rad scorpion attacks to hostile raids from wastelanders. The town's future was looking bleak. However, Aradesh did not falter. He began to establish policies of isolation and internal development in hopes of creating a self-sufficient community to better repel these raider attacks. The raiders, known to us as Khans, did not take kindly to Aradesh's defiance, however, and while his back was turned, abducted his young daughter. Devastated, Aradesh sought the help of an outsider who had recently returned from eradicating the rad scorpions that had plagued this wasteland paradise. This outsider is known to us as the Vault Dweller from Vault 13. The Vault Dweller accepted the task, and while the details of how things transpired vary from account to account, he managed to free Tandy from the merciless grip of the Khans.
Many sticks can be broken. A bundle cannot.
The proverbs of Dharma reverberated through the mind of Aradesh as he observes the growing commerce and prosperity between Shady Sands and its surrounding communities. In the years that follow, Aradesh proposes the formation of a new nation, hearkening back to the proverb of strength through unity. This proposal proves extremely popular with the people of the wasteland, propelling Aradesh's idea into reality. In the year 2186, Shady Sands formed a governmental council in order to draft a constitution for this new nation. Several years of deliberation and diplomacy ensued, and in 2189, the New California Republic, consisting of 5 separate Federation states, was voted into existence. At this time, Aradesh was voted in to become the NCR's first president. He served as president for 7 years while actively working to unify Southern California, as well as to protect and stabilize the region. His work continued until 2196, where he mysteriously disappeared whilst on an expedition in search of the fabled Vault 13, the home of a long-lost ally. While the NCR had launched search and rescue efforts into the wasteland, it would prove to be fruitless. Aradesh was never recovered, and once the NCR accepted his fate, he was declared dead, and a new president rose to power. Aradesh's beloved daughter Tandy was unanimously voted into presidency in 2196. This may come as a shock to some, but to the Wastelanders, it was an obvious decision. Tandy acted as the driving force which propelled Shady Sands into power during her father's time as the community's leader. She had helped Aradesh build the NCR, brick by brick, since the early days, following her rescue from the Khans by the Vault Dweller. She assisted Aradesh in expanding Shady Sands through diplomacy and commerce. She established trade lines between Junktown and the Hub, and even took part in dominating the Brahmin trade. To the Wastelanders, if anyone could lead this new nation into prosperity, it was Tandy. Tandy served as president of the NCR for a staggering 10 full terms up until her death at the age of 103. This ended the longest presidency in NCR history, having lasted 52 total years. Tandy's administration encouraged the growth of this new government from the 5 federation states of Shady Sands, the Boneyard, the Hub, Dayglow, and Maxon into the new California Republic as we know them today. Her policies largely focused on peaceful expansion through diplomacy, the rebuilding of pre-war infrastructure, clearing roadways and rail lines, developing and manufacturing transportation, fostering trade relations within and outside of NCR territory, building fortifications at strategic centers, and dealing with any threats to the nation swiftly and with force if necessary. As the NCR began to spread, it encountered opposition to its north, with the metropolis of Vault City and its idealistic opposite in New Reno both refusing to join the Republic. While both of these factions were juggernauts in the northern expansion, Tandy wasn't terribly concerned about them at the time. Rather, the more pressing matter was involving the town of Redding. Redding controls and operates a gold mine, a resource that the NCR values highly as they use it to back their new paper currency. Vault City and the families that control Reno also have their eyes trained on controlling this mine, as he who controls the currency controls the wasteland. The NCR opted for a diplomatic approach to winning over the town, as a military occupation would be too costly due to Redding's distance from the main NCR territory. However, this is interrupted by the Mordino family as they begin to ship Jet, a new Kim, into the city to force the miners of Redding to rely on them, thus winning them over to the side of New Reno. Vault City also sought to ally with Redding, but instead of getting the miners hooked on Kims, they opted for a more aggressive approach and hired a group of mercenaries to force the town into an alliance. The Triumvirate, each with swords drawn, each laying claim to a line in the sand while drought and food shortages wilted the valleys around them. That was until an unlikely ally tipped the scales of balance in favor of the new California Republic, thus vindicating Tandy's political philosophy up to this point. In 2241, the NCR came into conflict with a group of raiders occupying Vault 15, which had previously belonged to the NCR and contained computer parts that they desired. These raiders, known as the New Cons, moved into Vault 15 after the NCR's last salvage mission there. Tandy was quite familiar with these raiders, as their predecessors had been the same Cons that had kidnapped her in her youth. However, she was unaware that they were occupying the vault at this time. The surface area around the vault was occupied by wastelanders who didn't know that the Cons were raiders, but instead were under the impression that the Cons were repairing the vault so that it could be inhabited by both groups. Due to this, the squatters refused to vacate the area when the NCR attempted to retrieve the computer parts, and the existence of the Cons went unnoticed by the new California Republic. It was during this conflict that a tribal from a village called Arroyo to the north arrived at the NCR capital, formerly known as Shady Sands. Tandy recruited this tribal, known to us as the Chosen One, to retrieve the computer parts from the vault. While many accounts of the following events are contradictory, we know for certain that the Chosen One succeeded in retrieving the computer parts, as well as brokering a peace deal between the squatters and the NCR. This peace deal revealed the existence of the new Con raiders to the NCR. In exchange for food, shelter, and education for the squatters, the Republic would take military action against the Cons and put their reign of terror on local caravans to an end. This deal vindicated Tandy's belief that peaceful and diplomatic expansion was a worthwhile tactic in the increasingly hostile northern expansion. Vault 15 now acted as NCR's foothold in the area from which to operate, and the squatters became successful and productive members of the Republic's society. This moment would end up shaping the policies of Tandy's administration and the new California Republic for decades to come. In the end, the Chosen One would play a pivotal role in the expansion of the new California Republic, between brokering the deal at Vault 15 to securing Redding's alliance to the NCR, to eventually crippling the enclave at the Poseidon oil rig, allowing the Republic to launch an offensive military operation against the Enclave remnants at Navarro, defeating them, and securing weapons and vertibirds for the Republic. Not only this, but the NCR was able to forge an alliance with New Reno and use them to bully Vault City into joining the Republic. With these juggernauts subjugated into states of the new California Republic and many smaller settlements joining the fold in the following years, the NCR cemented a firm foothold in the region, with all of California now unified under the banner of the Bear. The Tandy administration had pushed for this idea of peaceful expansion, implementing many rules and strategies along the way, such as diplomacy with hostile tribes and groups before military action, humane treatment of prisoners of war, and limiting the number of cattle and acreage a single person can own. Unfortunately, Tandy would not live forever, and in the year 2248, she passed away at the impressive age of 103, being succeeded by her vice president, Joanna Tibbet. Tibet's administration had lasted 5 years. She had served out the remainder of Tandy's term and was re-elected for a term of her own. Unfortunately for Tibbet, her presidency would end in disaster. In the year 2253, 38 of the NCR's citizens were massacred by raiders on the frontier of the Mojave Wasteland. Tibbet hesitated to react to this massacre, and the Republic Congress and Senate reacted by removing her from office via a vote of no confidence. After more than 50 years of effective leadership, the citizens of the NCR had a clear idea of what they sought in a leader. And while peaceful expansion was the way of Tandy, the NCR would opt for more direct methods moving forward, as they valued peaceful negotiations in the face of violence less and less. After Tibbet was voted out of office, President Wendell Peterson took her place. This marked a shift in the political ideology of the new California Republic and set into motion a series of events that would lead the NCR from being a mostly peaceful federation of states to a plutocratic imperialist nation. President Peterson reacted swiftly to threats with military action, both inside and outside of the NCR's borders. Shortly after taking office, he deployed 3 battalions of NCR troops to occupy the Mojave Wasteland, as well as ordering military action against the Brotherhood of Steel, starting the longest and bloodiest war that the NCR had ever seen up to this point. The Brotherhood War was the culmination of half a decade of skirmishes between the two factions over disagreements on how technology should be used. The Brotherhood, wary of the growing nation-state around them, imposed a reactionary policy with the goal to seize and control the access to advanced technologies in order to prevent the NCR from making the same mistakes the pre-war government had. The NCR under the Tandy administration had largely cooperated with the Brotherhood in order to maintain the peace. However, Peterson had no ambition of compromising the nation's power to anyone, let alone the Brotherhood of Steel. At the onset of war, the Brotherhood quickly gained the upper hand, achieving countless military victories against the NCR. Their advanced technologies, superior individual training, and advanced military tactics led to NCR losses so numerous it appeared that the outcome of the conflict was decided. However, the tide of war would soon turn in favor of the new California Republic. While the Brotherhood was formidable, they lacked a vital component to a long and drawn-out conflict: conscription. The Brotherhood society is very close-knit and usually relies on family members for replacements. This leads them to rarely, if ever, allowing outsiders to join their ranks. The NCR, on the other hand, did not suffer from this handicap, and every time they take losses, they are able to replenish their ranks before the next battle. With each skirmish, the Brotherhood takes casualties, and over time, this begins to greatly cripple the military strength of the faction. Eventually, their numbers dwindled to the point they were forced to retreat into their underground bunkers, forsaking above-ground strategic positions and allowing the NCR to regain ground and push back against them. And when the NCR pushed back, they pushed hard, destroying 6 chapter bunkers and forcing the Brotherhood to destroy 4 of their own to prevent the NCR from acquiring them. With the war in the West dying down, the NCR returned its focus to their expansion into the Mojave. where they soon came into conflict with the Mojave chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel. Skirmishes broke out between the two factions almost instantly, and after a couple years of fighting, the NCR decided that the Brotherhood was too big of a hindrance to their eastern expansion. It was time to retire the Mojave chapter forever. The NCR launched Operation Sunburst in hopes of eliminating the entire Brotherhood chapter in a single pitch battle. The Brotherhood was dug into the Helios 1 solar power plant, which wasn't easily defensible, allowing the Republic the upper hand. Furthermore, the NCR brought an extremely large force for this operation, between 15 and 20 to 1. Knowing from previous battles against the Brotherhood that if nothing else, they would win via attrition. It was a slaughter, and after the smoke had cleared, over half of the Mojave chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel had been wiped out, including most of their experienced knights and paladins, with the remainder fleeing west through the mountains to safety. The Brotherhood War showed the citizens of the NCR that conflicts could be resolved quickly through military might, and with many citizens now military veterans, and others developing a strong sense of patriotism from the ongoing conflicts, they began voting for more imperialistic policies, idolizing generals instead of wise men, inching further and further away from the philosophies of Dharma, instilled by Aradesh and expanded on by Tandy. The Brotherhood War had left the NCR in a vulnerable state. Not only had they lost countless lives due to the conflict, but they also lost their gold reserves due to Brotherhood raids. When this occurred, the citizens panicked and rushed to trade in their dollars for whatever gold was left. The Republic had trouble keeping track of this event, especially on the frontiers where communication was already difficult. Before they could get a hold on the situation, the value of the NCR dollar had dropped significantly. The Republic reacted by removing the gold standard and enacting a fiat currency in order to keep from total economic collapse. This worked to stabilize their economy inside their central territory, but crippled its worth on the frontier, as many wastelanders did not hold faith in a currency that wasn't being backed by anything other than a government's word. The Hub realized this issue early on and responded to the currency crisis by reenacting bottle caps as the primary currency on the frontier, backing them with water and helping to create a rate of exchange for NCR dollars to caps. This stabilized economic relations, if only for a while. President Peterson served a consecutive 4 terms in office, and by the year 2269 began eroding the laws that limited the number of Brahmin and acreage a person could own, leading to resource barons and creating a massive wealth divide between the heads of industry and the average citizen. And with the rise of industry came the rise of production and commodity. With this, we see the rebirth of wage labor amongst the citizens of the NCR. No longer was the culture of the new California Republic focused on the collective, but rather focused on their individualistic needs.
Many sticks can be broken. A bundle cannot.
In the year 2273, the NCR Council voted Representative of the Hub, Aaron Kimball, into office, ousting the former President Peterson. Kimball had won favor with the people for his status as a retired general and decorated war hero, whose rise to prominence came from his campaigns against the tribes of the Sierra Nevada mountains, as well as the tribes around Bullhead City and the Mojave. His methods were direct, draconian, and effective, leading to further support from the increasingly imperialistic NCR public. After the election, he finished overturning the limits placed on Brahmin and agriculture, making the barons even wealthier, and immediately ordered the occupation of Hoover Dam, which at the time was already occupied by Mr. House and the 3 families. After brief negotiations, they established the New Vegas Treaty, which allowed the NCR to occupy Hoover Dam and send water back to New California in exchange for New Vegas's independence and the NCR's business. This maneuver was massively popular with the people of the NCR, and support for Kimball skyrocketed. However, his image would begin to degrade with a long and drawn-out war for the Mojave Wasteland. During the presidency of Peterson in the year 2271, a document known as the Ranger Unification Treaty was signed between the Desert Rangers of Nevada and the Rangers of the New California Republic. This treaty brought the Rangers of Nevada into the ranks of the NCR in exchange for protection of Hoover Dam and the rest of the Mojave against a national superpower moving into the Mojave wasteland from the east, Caesar's Legion. Skirmishes between the two superpowers broke out over the course of many years and culminated in a full-scale battle over the occupation of Hoover Dam and the whole Mojave subsequently. The NCR was victorious in this conflict due to the strategic wit of Chief Hanlon, the commander of the NCR Rangers. However, the celebration was short-lived, and while the soldiers rejoiced over a victory against the Legion, the commander of the NCR's forces, General Oliver, fumed with jealousy. All the while, Caesar prepared on the other side of the river, sharpening his blades with his eyes trained west. It's here we begin to see the light peering from the cracks in the NCR. The Mojave campaign has been long, arduous, and uneconomic. The citizens of the NCR were told that the annexation would be quick. However, it's been anything but, and they are losing patience with the drain on resources and the countless lives that have been lost. Kimball only cares about results so long as he is re-elected, and as such, he overlooks a series of mistakes that could cost him everything. His first mistake involves his decision to send the elite veteran Rangers to Baja, chasing ghosts, so that the troopers can shine in the Mojave. The direct consequence of this action is now the people of the NCR directly associate this war in the Mojave with Kimball, meaning the longer they are fighting this war, the worse it is for him. This leads to his second and biggest mistake of all: the man who commands his army. Oliver is by no means a great general, and merely holds this rank and position in the Mojave campaign due to his close friendship with the president. While the Legion adapts its strategies to better combat the NCR, Oliver sticks to his guns, opting to amass troops at Hoover Dam to march against the Legion, a strategy not unfamiliar to those who fought in the Brotherhood War, and a strategy with the President Kimball seal of approval. Oliver is jealous that Hanlon got all the glory for the first battle of Hoover Dam, and because of this, refuses any strategic advice Hanlon offers him, often opting to do the exact opposite instead. He grossly underutilizes the Rangers, having most of them stationed at outposts to observe activity instead of using them to gain strategic footholds for the final battle of Hoover Dam. To further drive the nail in his coffin, he ignores the Legion's advances into the Mojave and refuses to properly reinforce strategic positions along or within his border. This leads to chaos in the Mojave due to a lack of manpower. As the Legion continues to massacre NCR outposts, Deathclaws and escaped convicts ravage the supply lines going east, and raiders manage to press the NCR encampments hard enough to inflict serious casualties. In stark opposition to the strategy enacted by Oliver, we have Ranger Chief Hanlon. He knows the Legion very well and understands just how tough and adaptable they truly are. He is acutely aware that Oliver's strategies will fail, and Caesar's Legion will not fall at the dam. After spending years in the Mojave, Hanlon came to the conclusion that holding the dam would do more harm to the NCR than good, and pulling out of the campaign is the only sane thing to do. And while Hanlon has the ear of Kimball, his counsel is less valued than some of the more militant officers in Kimball's cabinet. Hanlon sees the toll that the war that Caesar's Legion has left, not only on the troops, but on the citizens back home. Between that and Vegas bleeding the Republic dry of its wealth, his projections for the NCR's occupation look bleak. The dichotomy between Oliver and Hanlon is a sentiment that is echoed throughout the entire chain of command, with many block-headed, hawkish soldiers in support of Kimball and the Mojave campaign, while others see the forest for the trees and know that military might can only get a nation so far. This sentiment is again exemplified with Colonel Moore and Colonel Shue. Colonel Moore is a decorated officer in the NCR military, having served 4 tours against the Brotherhood of Steel, as well as having served in the NCR Rangers. Imperialistic in nature, her tactics involve swift, direct action and extermination of the enemy at all costs. In 2281, she is the acting commander of the NCR forces garrisoned at Hoover Dam. In contrast, Colonel Shu is a much more level-headed and calm leader, realizing the importance of diplomacy as well as showing genuine care for the troops under him and the people of the Mojave. The leadership style between the two is clear and evident on how they go about resolving the political issues between the NCR and other local factions inhabiting the wasteland, with Shu offering to establish treaties and trade, and Moore opting for extermination, lest they oppose her in the future. While Colonel Shu is the acting commander of the NCR troops in the Mojave, this doesn't count for much due to his commands constantly being undermined by Oliver and Moore, who continue to pull troops from Shu's jurisdiction over to the dam for Oliver's grand strategy. This ultimately cripples Colonel Shu's ability to protect the Mojave territory and engage in effective diplomacy. Actions such as this tarnish the reputation of the entire NCR in the wasteland, as well as stacking the deck against them, leading up to the final battle of Hoover Dam. Without the help of the community around them, they have no hope of defeating Caesar's Legion or incorporating Vegas as a new state into the Republic, and if Hanlon's projections prove true, they won't be able to hold the Mojave long term even if the campaign itself is successful. And now we begin to see their fatal flaw. The mixture of overexpansion, cronyism, and imperialistic plutocracy are just symptoms of the underlying problem. The root issue is that the NCR is no longer acting for the betterment of the community. They are now merely acting for the enrichment of themselves. Greed has taken hold, as the leaders care only for making themselves wealthy and powerful. They become increasingly hostile and warlike with each new campaign, choosing their presidents based on martial prowess instead of policy. In a world where they no longer worry about survival, they succumb to selfishness, viewing themselves above all others as they discard diplomacy as weak and ineffective. This is the sickness referenced by Ulysses in The Divide. The NCR has become debased, corrupt, and lacking in virtue. Long have they forsaken the teachings of Dharma, Aradesh, and Tandy, who knew that their true strength came not from military might, but from community with their neighbors. And it's the new California Republic's arrogance that will be their downfall. For once they were a bundle, but now, well, now they are just mere sticks. 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 Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel so that way you can see whenever I drop a new Fallout lore video. And until we meet next, voile, amicus.